Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen. This is Immersive Engineering. The lightning rod. As you can see here, I currently have a little bit of a setup going on down on the ground. Allow me to alleviate the weather briefly. Okay, so what we're covering today is, of course, the lightning rod, which is a very powerful and instant gratification power-generating machine of epic proportions. So if you don't have access to flight, this can be very difficult. If you do have access to flight, it probably won't be too bad, but it will require a lot of materials. Now, as you see here, it's currently not too bad of a setup. There's your list of stuff. I mean, it's in your book. You just look up lightning rod, and it's rather basic to find in there. And it is made with some very simple materials, primarily steel fence, high voltage cable, or high voltage coil block, some copper coil blocks. You're going to need some steel scaffolding, as well as light engineering blocks, HV capacitors, and of course you're going to need some other items as well. Now what I've got here at the moment is a high voltage coil block in the middle. I have 4 HV capacitors on the sides around it, and then of course I have here, let's just click here, some steel scaffolding on the outside of that. I'm also going to need a little bit of treated wood fencing, which I need to put down on top of each of these on top of these steel scaffoldings. Now, if I put this high voltage coil block, I need to stack those 3 high, so it's running through the whole center of this unit. Then I put copper coil blocks all around that entirely, so it's entirely covering the entire top of it. Yes, in its entirety. I can say entire a few more times if you like. You put down some light engineering blocks around that, and then you just take your engineer's hammer, right click on any of those engineering blocks, and you turn it into this wonderful device here, the lightning rod, which I currently have some of the steel fences that you will need above that at the moment. But if you look at this one here, I currently have it running down into the lightning rod machine. Now, if you're not ready to contain power just yet, like you don't have a bunch of capacitors set up close to the lightning rod, you don't need to worry about it. It's nothing really that you need to concern yourself with, because if you look here, it has an internal storage of 16 million. The reason it has 16 million is because, I don't know if you remember or not, but it currently has these HV capacitors around it. Each one can store 4 million IF or RF, as it may be translated, depending on your power source of choice. And in this case, I've got a few extra capacitors on the outside that are filtering out any kind of stuff that's coming into it. So, how does this work? Well, basically, you just take a bunch of steel fence, put it coming out of the top here, and you have it going up into the sky, and you hope that it gets struck by lightning whenever it's a thunder, lightning, rainstorm. That's the simplest way for me to put it. Now I'm going to just teleport up top, and I am at the top of these lightning rods. Now I currently have 3 of them down below. I know it's difficult to see. My rendering distance doesn't go quite that far, because I am up in the 200s area. The higher up you go, the better off you're going to be. Plus, if you add a netted top to it. Now, I had 3 of these set up down below. Now, you would think, potentially, I could hook them all up to this same net, and therefore, if it gets hit, I could get double that from it. No, it only works where it will teleport the energy into one of those connected. So you don't want these connected. If you are going to use some close by nets, like so that they are not, basically just going to be, there we go. I'll show you here. Just kind of knock some of them off. There you go. Now this one, when it gets struck, would basically get 16 million. And this one, when it gets struck, would be 16 million. And yes, it is, every time that a lightning strikes, it means 16 million, which is great. But you also have to wait for the energy to flow out of the lightning rod itself, which is the machine down at the bottom. I'm not talking about these the metal poles. And the larger the net that you have connected to it, the better off you're going to be. The more likely it's going to catch any and all lightning strikes nearby. And I'm pretty sure you can get this out in like a 16 by 16 area, which is that's a lot of steel being used, trust me. But you don't have to go quite that far. You could probably do a net of maybe like 5 by 5 or something, and have it go really high up into the sky, and you'll get yourself a decent ratio. Just make sure you've got some storage down below. And then as you process more and more metal, you're more likely to do it. Now, here is something else to consider. One, of course, is the size of this. The wider and so on it is, the better off you're going to be up to. And I'm kind of guessing at this. I believe it's 16. I did a lot of testing on getting it out to this far, which is almost 16, and I don't see why it wouldn't have changed from previous version to the current version. But let me jump down here. And the taller it is off the ground, and the wider the net at the top, the more likely it is going to attract the lightning. You notice that I've got this guy here who's like, there's a whole bunch of them honking at me. I don't know what they're doing there. And anyway, just ignore them. They're just a bunch of engineers that are working on fixing a problem with that Tesla coil. Sorry, a little distraction. But each one of these has its own little lightning rod. They're very unlikely to actually get hit. If it's just a lightning rod with no netting at the top, which is just a whole bunch of like steel fence, you see here, I just have it connected together, then it's if it doesn't have netting at the top, it's very unlikely to get hit. But the longer this pole and the more netting you have, the better off you're going to be. If you just have a really long pole, like all the way down to bedrock, this actually goes all the way down to bedrock. These two are both at around, what is this, Y level 66 is where this machine is currently at. And these ones are less likely to actually get struck by lightning, if only because the pole isn't quite as long. It's not required that it runs all the way down to bedrock, but it will increase the chance, and it's kind of multiplicative for a large net and a really long length. Now let me actually jump down to the bedrock level, and it's very dark. Okay, there we go. That just took a second for me to get down here, and you can see that I have one, and it runs the entire length. I don't think I can actually, yeah, there you go. You can kind of see all the way up there. It runs very, very long. It's like about I think 200 and something length for running all the way up there, plus that massive netting, and lightning strikes it, it will do, as you can see here in the top left corner, it says 16.0 million IF, and that's a lot of IF. And you can see these HV capacitors are full. I currently, what I did with these is, actually let me teleport back to the top, and I can show you much easier, where it's a little bit easier to work with, so I'm not kind of cramped. All right, let me break this down here. The easiest way that I found to do this is I will first demonstrate out in the air, and then I will put it in place. So let me kind of break a few of these so you can see what's going on. There we go, and I will actually break blocks underneath so that it can be seen. Now you see here, all of the outsides are all closed. The top of any HV capacitor you place down is already set to input. So what you want to do is plug in to this. You see this? This is like a little plug on the side. Ignore this bit. That is not your output for the power. It's the upper part, where if you're looking at the side here, it's got that little red bit. And what you want to do is take your engineer's hammer while it's up against here, so you're going to want to face it. Imagine that this is connected there, like this. And I'll show you what's happening. If you hold Shift and then right-click, the other side of this turns into an input. So that's what you're going to want to do once you place this down, turn it into an input. And there you go. You see it's already draining power from the this lightning rod machine itself. And if you want to put another one down underneath that and then have it further drain into that, you can, which, if you remember, it already is set to input at the top, but the bottom of this one is not set to output. So you're going to want to do this again. You want to get up above it, hold Shift, and right-click once. And what's going to happen when I right-click once? It's just going to turn it into an input. So right-click once, and you'll see it's input. Now, if I get up on top of that, right-click a second time, Shift right-click, I should say, it turns it into an output. So therefore, it will drain from this into here, into that bottom one. So here we go. I go Shift, right-click again, And now you can see the bottom one is filling as well, and the top one is draining at an even ratio. So you're not having any loss of any power because these are direct transfers. There is no need for HV wire connectors and coils if you're just storing the power for now. So I recommend, if you're going to do this, that this is how you do it. You directly connect your capacitors together so that you can just have one flow into the other, and perhaps even create a large buffer of these going into it. And therefore, you can have a large battery storage anytime that it has a thunderstorm going on, which if you have people playing with blood magic or something like that, then they're probably going to be doing that quite often. But if they're playing with Britannia and they've got like one of those Bozu charms, then you might not see it rain very often at all, and this machine will be completely obsolete. So it's entirely up to you and your gameplay. If there's a lot of rain and thunder on your server or on your single player playthrough, that you might be able to benefit from using one of these. And you can see that this is really, really high up in the sky. Bye village. And I've got a pretty decent setup here. And then if you have some magical means of making it rain, it's possible that it might not work, because there were precautions set up with this originally to prevent abuse from making things thunder and lightning. But in some cases, it may still work. Now, that was just regular rainstorm. I just turned on a thunderstorm in vanilla Minecraft. And you can see that pretty much gives 16 million, and then it will drain out at a slow ratio of like about 4,000 IF per tick, I believe, out of the machine into the capacitors, the HV capacitors here that are down below. And of course, I showed you how to join them into some kind of network, and then you can pull out of the one that everything jumps into. Let me jump all the way back down again real briefly. If you want to create a massive storage of these, you could feasibly take all these together and have them all link into, let's say, one. And then you could have, like this link into that, and then this link into that, and all of them link down below, and all of them link eventually into this one. Then you'd have all your power storage in one block that you could drain all of these batteries from. So that would be somewhat beneficial to some, at least. Then you just hook that up and hook it into, whatever else you want to power nearby, like maybe a Tesla machine. But anyway, there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed this little bit by bit on what I believe is the current last bit of the Immersive Engineering series until there's more development out there. So if so, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, don't forget to spread the mischief to others if you think they'll enjoy this content too. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya. Bye! I know this doesn't work for making charged creepers.